we were talking about the coronavirus today in my office off air, and I believe the coronavirus is going to cause real impact economically. We're all going to get it eventually, just like we all have had the 1918 flu. I mean, this is just another strain of flu. I hope that it doesn't, kill 2% of the population, but we're all going to get it. Barack Obama didn't release any federal money until 1,000 people were killed by the swine flu. Everybody is freaking out about this. We're talking about closing schools, et cetera, et cetera. How much of this do you guys believe is real, and how much of this is the left or the corporate media wanting this to be real to hurt the economy? Because that's the only thing that will hurt Donald Trump.
They so desire this to be a real disaster that they can blame on him. I think, it's a flu. It's, we're going to have these things come through from time to time. It's going to be what a flu is. The flu, what does the flu kill every year? 65,000 people or something like that?
68,000. The death rate on a traditional flu is 0.1%. The death rate on this one is somewhere between 1% and 2%. The transmission rate, they're still trying to figure out. It's sort of hard to tell what the death rate is based on the fact that
I'm not sure
it's in China.
Yeah.
What was that?
I'm not sure that we know the death rate because I don't think that we know when people have mild.
Well, we don't know what the denominator is.
Right.
So it's hard to tell what that is, but yeah.
So the R naught which is the infection rate, is a lot higher than the flu. And the death rate, CDC came out today and said, we might want to readjust some of these numbers. The death rate in the West may actually be higher. They've been projecting that China is in the 2.9, but they thought it would come down in the West. It was at first hovering about 1.5 per thousand. But it looks like they're talking now that it might be in the 2s for the West as well.
Except that I'm not sure that if people have mild versions of it, they may never know that it was coronavirus that they had. Yeah. I'll say this.
Well, that's the one thing that I think we're going to see these numbers start going through the roof, because we're testing now. We hadn't been testing before.
Yeah. But what I think to answer your question, obviously the coronavirus is real, and obviously it's a problem that we're going to have to confront. I think that the fact that the Dow went into correction within 10 days of being at an all-time high, that is all the media. Are there going to be long-term economic consequences, long-term, to the fact that the supply chain's been disrupted, that international travel's been disrupted? There is some of that that's real, but even that is mostly, I think, being a response to the hype. When people are like, I'm canceling my travel and stocks and airlines are going to start to collapse, the media is desperate to promulgate this because they know that this is Trump's vulnerability.
I'm actually more pessimistic about the reality of coronavirus's economic impact than everybody else here. Like, I think that the disruption of the supply chains are a very serious thing. I think that Europe's economy was already teetering on the brink of a recession or depression. They've done horrible systemic things to the economy in Europe, and they've been propping it up with central bank inflation for a very long time. When President Trump says we ought to look at Germany and how they inflate the currency, I read the GDP growth rates of Germany over the last couple of years. It's 0.1%, 0.2% per quarter. So trying to point at them and being like, look how they're handling it, it's fantastic. He did the same thing with Australia. Very silly. Also, it is 100% true that the media and the Democrats are trying to pin this on Trump when the thing has nothing to do with Trump, right? I mean, it's China and Europe.
Hey, Glenn,
there's a couple of things also. There's also a couple of things that I think you need to look at with the economy. On the good side, this was the coronavirus that brought the stock market. We've been waiting for a 15, 20% correction in the market. This is a great correction in the market if it doesn't continue to go down. Great correction in the market because Trump doesn't get blamed by, it can be blamed by the media, but everybody right now is like, that's coronavirus. That's why they're all buying toilet paper. So that's the good side of it. The bad side is today the Fed cut by, what was it?
50 basis points.
Half a point?
50 basis points.
Yeah, so I mean, we're looking at a significant cut, and the market went down.
But don't you think that's because the cut signaled to the market that the government
Yes.
is concerned about this.
Yes.
They actually.
Yes.
It's why Trump should stop shouting about the damn Fed.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. This is not what the Federal Reserve was designed for. Using the Federal Reserve as your solution of first resort to economic slowdowns is a disaster area. It doesn't figure out any of the underlying problems in an economy, and it's moronic for Trump to be saying, well, we should lower it to below zero. You want to tank the economy? Lower the interest rates to below zero. Go for it, dude.
So we were just, if I may just hijack your broadcast for a second, we were just talking about this, and I would love to get your opinion. Donald Trump, somebody, if the economy goes the way that everybody is believing it's going to in the media, and we have real disruption, we have people that are not working, the economy and the engine comes to a stop for a while. We've never seen the number one and number two, manufacturer and consumer, go down for a 6-month period. If those things do happen, we're going to have to do or consider what they're doing now in China or Hong Kong, and that is stop mortgages or give people a minimum, wage or whatever it is to keep things floating. How does a conservative, because I think we should talk about this and design something and promote something so it's not taken over by socialists. How does a conservative handle an economy that's stopped and pay people's mortgage? Do we do a loan program where, look, we'll give you $1,500 a month or whatever it is, but you have 10 years, 20 years to pay it back, but it's a stopgap from a socialist coming in and saying, I'm going to give you free everything because they're stingy and they won't give you anything, or a new FDR that starts programs that never go away. How do we deal with this?
I mean, in the past, in 1920, when there was a serious depression, that's exactly what happened. Private investors, people who were very wealthy, came out of the woodwork. They gave enormous amounts of charity. Employers floated their employees' loans. People recognized that the only way to keep the economy running was to incur some debt. That's when you would see the usefulness of the Fed actually lowering interest rates. At that point, when you have a serious crisis where the economy grinds to a halt, then the Fed makes it very cheap for you to borrow money, and presumably everybody lives on credit for a little while. But yeah, I mean, that is the scary thing.
That's not today, and now everybody's going to scream about, I can't afford health care, I can't afford my rent, where's the government? In 1920, they told people, go away, it's not the government's job.
Yeah, but I think that this is the coronavirus thing. The supply chains will come back online. It's just a question of how long it's going to take for the supply chains to come back online.
Correct.
If we're talking about the underlying systemic issues in Europe and China, those are the ones that are scarier. Because the fact is that China's been using debt-led growth in order to make its economy grow at these false rates, and Europe has been doing the same thing, which is why they keep having to undergo austerity cuts they don't actually pursue. Those are more serious problems for the world in the long run. I'm not so worried that the coronavirus is going to tip us into a depression as much as I'm worried that for a 6-month period everything sort of grinds to a halt. Nobody's forecasting that this tips us into like a full-scale economic meltdown. That's why the adjustment was 10% and not 50% of the economy probably.
I think it would go to a full-fledged meltdown if you had the second black swan, and that's Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I agree. I agree with this. I agree with this.
Well, hey there. Now's the time when you hit that like button for me so we can keep smoking cigars and drinking whiskey for your amusement. Or, in Ben's case, eating popcorn directly off the floor. He's weird.